Hi, my name is Dorian Tossi Robinson. I am a project manager at EAVAC Sandek. What a mess! Waste is dumped all over. It is burning and smoke is present. Animals and pests are proliferating at the site. Waste pickers are scavenging through the waste, putting themselves at high risk. This is unfortunately a common situation in low and middle income countries, critically affecting both public health and the environment. But did you know it doesn't have to be this way? Existing disposal sites can be upgraded by applying simple stepwise improvements. In this video, you will know about the levels of control of waste disposal sites. For this, we will use the WasteWise CityStool ladder of control level. You will also be able to identify key mitigation measures to improve waste disposal sites. The WasteWise CityStool, or WACT, from UN Habitat, is an assessment tool for municipal solid waste systems. It includes multiple elements, and today we are focusing on the ladder of control level for waste disposal sites. This ladder classifies disposal sites into 5 levels of control: full, improved, basic, limited, and none, with a description corresponding to each level. Full control typically corresponds to a sanitary landfill, a carefully engineered waste disposal site designed to minimize environmental impacts. On the other end of the ladder, we have dump sites, where waste is dumped without any form of control, as in the example we saw at the beginning. To evaluate the level of control at disposal sites, you can either use the WACT ladder of control and the descriptions listed for each level, or use Annex 7, which uses a yes or no questionnaire to guide you in the assessment. I want to highlight that reaching basic control levels is possible for existing sites and should be prioritized. Disposal sites without proper control, like this one, pose a serious risk to public health and the environment. Let's have a look at simple mitigation measures to improve disposal sites and reach basic control levels according to the WACT ladder. Increasing the security by fencing the site and having a single supervised access point will limit presence of animals and unauthorized access. Staff should be present to monitor the access. This will limit uncontrolled dumping and intentional burning of waste. Fencing also functions as a barrier to catch wind-blown waste. A green barrier with trees and bushes can also catch and avoid spreading of waste to the surroundings. Recording the amounts of waste entering the site is also important, as it is a key monitoring parameter. For example, it is used to estimate the filling rate of the disposal site or to calculate the gate fee in specific cases. This can be done using a weighbridge to precisely measure the weight. If a weighbridge is not feasible, then recording truck entries and estimating volumes of waste is already an improvement. A very important measure is to dispose waste in an organized manner, following a waste placement plan. Waste should be deposited at a specific operational area, which is called the tipping phase, and should then be compacted and covered. This has multiple benefits, such as limiting exposure to waste, reducing presence of pests and animals, reducing rainwater infiltration and leachate, or mitigating burning risks. But more importantly, compacting and covering allows to save space and build a stable disposal site, layer by layer in an organized manner. In this example, we can see the tipping phase at the bottom. All the trucks are unloading at this location, and then the waste is spread, compacted, and covered with inert material by heavy mechanical equipment. At the back, we can see all the waste that has been compacted and covered in layers, building the disposal site upwards. Proper operations also include constructing stable slopes to minimize risks of landslides. A stable disposal site is also important to allow trucks to safely drive on top of it and reach the current operational area. In this other example, you can see the low slopes that were constructed on both sides to ensure the stability and prevent landslides. In this last example, the tipping face is small and very well defined. No waste is visible anywhere else. This is a perfect example of the construction of a new waste disposal cell, which is waste that is spread, compacted, and covered to form a new building block of the disposal site. One after another, these blocks or cells are constructed to build the disposal site in an organized manner, following the waste disposal plan. Another issue is rainwater, because it greatly contributes to generate leachate. Clean rainwater should be captured with a perimeter drain around the site. In this example, you can see a drain hidden behind the vegetation that captures rainwater runoff from the surrounding land, avoiding it to enter the disposal site. Finally, you must avoid and extinguish fires, as burning waste has extremely high health and environmental impacts and pose direct risk to staff at the disposal site. To avoid fires, compacting and covering is important. At the same time, supervision at the site is essential to prevent intentional fires and to detect and report spontaneous fires, ensuring that appropriate support is called to extinguish them. I have shown you several mitigation measures that you can implement to reach a basic level of control at the disposal site. This should be implemented as soon as possible to existing sites. In the meantime, to reach improved and full control, it is necessary to plan and operate a new sanitary landfill, which includes the safe management of leachate and gases. While planning for a new sanitary landfill, which might take some years, there are additional measures that you can implement rapidly to avoid leachate and gases at any disposal site. Organic waste is highly responsible for leachate and gas emissions at a disposal site, so avoiding organic waste to enter the disposal site is an essential measure to reduce impacts. To do so, organic waste should be collected separately and treated in a dedicated facility. This would also reduce the amount of waste that needs to be disposed and increase the lifetime of the disposal site. Another option to reduce gases is to use one method of disposal called Fukuoka, which tries to enhance aerobic conditions in the waste by creating passive airflows through large drains and ventilation pipes. Making the disposal site aerobic can reduce methane emissions. In many cases, the different mitigation measures that I showed you can be implemented and should be pursued at existing sites. But sometimes it is not possible and it is necessary to close the site. Here, we can see a dump site where waste was simply dumped off the cliff. Here, most mitigation measures are impossible to implement. The site had to be closed and the waste was covered as a temporary measure. Ultimately, waste should be removed from this location to prevent further negative impacts. In this video, you learned about the levels of control at disposal sites and that it can be assessed using the WACT ladder. You also learned about key mitigation measures to improve waste disposal sites. Remember that all these can help mitigate the impacts, but won't avoid them fully. A proper sanitary landfill will always be needed in the future. Now it's your turn. Download the WACT tool and evaluate the disposal site of your city. Then consider and evaluate improvements that you could implement.